First of all, thank you so much for being here. It's 10:15. Man, it's like a round of applause for showing up. Thanks so much. So before we get started, my name is Nico. I work for a company called The Orchard. We're a distribution company, and I work in digital marketing. But I'm not the person that's going to be talking. It's these lovely people here. So I thought we would just get started if you just present yourself, doing a little intro about who you are and what you do.
My name is Carl Marcus. I run a label in Stockholm, Sweden called Despots Records. We work with everything from singer-songwriters to death metal, basically. So a very broad genre base. We've been around for about 10 years, and we're 3 people in the office, but work with fixed accounts of distribution and PR all across the world.
Hi, my name's Romy. I work for Hospital Records in the UK. We're a drum and bass label. We release lots of different sorts of music, but primarily dance and drum and bass. We're based in London. I've been running our digital department for the last 4 years. I'm now a label manager, so I'm looking after a broader range of things, but still focusing heavily on digital because it's obviously key to our business.
Hi everyone, I'm Michel Rojo from Spain. I'm digital sales manager at Rockstatal Records and the music company. We are based in Madrid. And we release very from punk, rock, metal, and even indie pop. So we are working with a lot of artists. Thank you for coming.
Great. So this session is going to be on what we call best practices in digital marketing. We want to try and keep it quite practical, going through some of the campaigns that you guys have been working on and what you guys experience. But I want to try and get you guys involved if you have any questions. Don't feel like you have to wait until the end. Please raise your hand and I'll just try and kind of look out for you if it's got anything to do with the topic that we're talking about. First of all, before we get started, how many people are labels? I'm just going to get like a cool managers, artists. Am I forgetting anyone? Live? Yeah? Okay, cool. It's like a mixture. We just want to try and keep it as valuable for you guys as possible. But yeah, please do raise your hands if you want to chime into what we're talking about. So, of course, yeah, we're going to talk about best practices. So I thought we would just start with some of the campaigns that you guys have been working on and what's been going well lately for you guys and why. So do you want to start, or should we just start over there? Because I think that you had a really successful campaign this year with a band that I can never say the name of. Do you want to say?
Celtas Cortos.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, of course. Last year we released the 30th birthday celebration of one of the most famous bands in Spain, Celtas Cortos. Well, it was a very special album because it was a celebration of all the trajectory of the band, and it was a live recorded album with all the band and an orchestra, a symphonic orchestra. So it was a very special product, and it was really, really great to work in that project. To release this album, we developed a mixed strategy for digital and for physical too. We designed different products for each digital service. In order to, in contraprestation, get, of course, some support. We in the Spotify album we placed 2 exclusive acoustic tracks for them, and a track-by-track commentary of the band and of the history of the band. Okay. For iTunes, we placed 4 exclusive videos of that concert with the orchestra. It was great because the services gave up gave us a support in form of audio ads in Spotify and Carousel, a very good position to the album in the cover of the iTunes Spain. In addition, we work very focused in social media. We think about influencers strategy. We contacted with a lot of artists that have been in contact with Celtas Cortos during the 30 years they have been playing in Spain, asking for a short video for Facebook in this case, saying, hey, I'm here, I want to say you congratulations for your career, for your birthday. And we get a very, very good engagement with the public because we combine the public of Celtas Cortos and the public of all the artists who collaborated with us. So this is a resume of our campaign.
And you obviously got a lot of support from, you mentioned, Spotify and iTunes. And what are you guys' thoughts on when you don't always get that support? Where do you start to try and even get the attention from those type of platforms?
You've got to prove that you've got an audience, I guess. If you can show to those platforms that people want to listen to your music. I think sometimes with larger artists, you can almost get a little bit lazy because you'll get the playlist support. And so actually neglect building an audience and awareness yourself. Playlists are great and you'll get lots of streams. So I'm by no means saying you shouldn't pitch for those things all the time. But you should also focus and try and think about what would you do if you didn't get New Music Friday or the big playlist edition. New Music Friday is great, and we push for it for our artists, and obviously they love it when we get it. However, it's almost an artificial boost in streams. What matters is how many people stick around and listen to your music for the following weeks after. If you get an enormous spike for the first week and then all those people disappear, it's effectively useless, apart from the first week's streams.
Yeah.
Speaking about Spotify, it's more about building, all of our strategy builds on the baseline. Sure, you can get these spikes, but you want the baseline to increase. And that means if you have a new artist, you'd rather have that first spike on maybe when the EP comes or when the album comes after a few singles. Of course, those are good if you get those trends. But for everyone that actually finds the artist on Spotify, you want them to actually go in and discover the rest of it and follow that artist. And if there's only one track there, that conversion rate is going to be less when you get that break. But leading up until that point, it's all about the storytelling, getting the PR, getting the marketing to tell a story. And that means getting the right quotes, getting the right tastemakers to back you so that you can collect all of these selling points before you also use that to pitch Spotify or the other services, make your artist relevant in a way.
Yeah, and you were saying, obviously you mentioned story, and it's something that people have been talking about for quite a while now, that you have to create a story around the artist. And we were talking about that before with one of your projects that you did, like around the theme. Is that how you get started? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Artwork is quite it doesn't lead the campaign, but it basically sculpts the theme throughout the whole thing. So we did our We Are 21 campaign it was our 21 years anniversary this year. So in January we released a 60-track compilation from music from all of our artists as well as licensed in music and others. But it's called We Are 21. It was blackjack themed. It was sort of themed around a card game. So I wasn't keen on the artwork to begin with when it came along, but we then managed to roll that out across all of our assets. We had YouTube videos, Instagram videos, everything, social videos, all our adverts on socials, all had this same branding, the same theme. We got some animation done of like rolling poker chips. And so we just had that across the entire thing, so it became so recognisable amongst our fans and hopefully sort of outside of our fans. It was something that worked really well as a strong sort of leader for the project.
Yeah, and it's always based around themes that you want to try and work around. Both of you guys have mentioned actually advertising. So I find that actually quite interesting with a lot of labels that I work with. They're not always that aware of. It's hard to put the value of advertising in front of someone, it's not that they might not get the necessarily like direct return on investment, or but it's kind of hard to measure that. What do you think about around advertising?
We advertise pretty much all of our campaigns. Importantly, you don't want to waste money, so it has to be targeted and you have to be able to measure it. We have tracking set up on our website. We use track links, everything we do. We use a service called Linkfire where you can follow people, see where they've gone, what they've clicked through, find out what's working. We sell a lot of stuff through our own store. And so we can measure, people click on our adverts, they come through to our store, they either buy something or they don't. And if they're not, then obviously we're aware that it's not working. I think if you're not able to measure the outcome of an advertising campaign, then you should be a bit wary of spending too much money on it. Unfortunately, these days with the Facebook algorithm, it's not like in sort of 2012, you could post a link, everyone would see it, you get an enormous spike in plays on a YouTube video. That doesn't happen anymore. So you have to do well-targeted advertising. And I'm a firm believer in that you should do it yourself. I think there are good agencies out there, but they cost quite a lot of money. You're building their expertise rather than yours, and you're also building their audiences rather than yours. And do it in-house, learn it, do it yourself, and therefore you're much better off.
Collecting as much data as possible for yourself. Yeah? Is that something you all agree on?
I agree. I think that we don't have only to think in immediate conversion. We can think too in artist awareness. AdWords and Facebook have a very, very powerful platform for ads. I think the most important is to target perfectly the public you are focus the advertisement. And there are a lot of tools to do that. You can place an AdWords code in the web of your artist to track 3 months before the release the people who is interested in the artist maybe. The most important is to think perfectly in each euro you are investing in advertisement, I think.
I don't know, maybe this is just my own perception, but I think the editorial importance is still important to get selling points from me and get quotes of tastemakers, but the driving of streams has become less for me even the bigger blogs and bigger medias, they're not, I mean, it's just playlists that actually drives the streams now, but the blogs and the media are still important to get those tastemakers and get the names, but for me, that's why marketing has become more and more important, because that's when I can actually pay to drive in streams and increase the boost. So paying to get those first 1,000, 2,000 streams on Spotify, even for a new artist, is still important, because what you're hoping for is to sort of kickstart the algorithms, to get them Discover Weekly Monday peaks, with just no persons behind it. It's just, if you get that track trending with a low skip rate, or I don't know exactly what metrics they look at Spotify, but they have so many metrics to look at. So if you get those statistics in there, paying for it or not, that can still kickstart that campaign without much of the other story. So I'm still experimenting, but I'm trying different services to get where I can find the most. I told you about buying streams, but that's not what I want to do. I want to buy streams or get people to stream it that are in the target audience, because if those streams are coming from people who don't like the music, the skip rate is going to go up. So that's the thing. Getting those first few hundred or a few thousand streams by people who actually listen to the music, be it on Facebook because they're fans or not, that's sort of one of the key things here, because if you can get the algorithms working for you, you can get peaks every Monday of a few thousand streams, and maybe when you release new stuff, you'll get the Friday release radar stream peaks as well.
Yeah.
Now I'm very Spotify focused, but I'm from Sweden. You have to excuse me.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I was getting into. Yeah, because obviously, how do you decide? You were mentioning several platforms. We did this for iTunes. You had 6 instant grats for which, when I'm Swedish as well, and I came to London like 5 years ago, and I was just like, what? They're still talking about downloads. That's really odd. But obviously, this is we have an international panel. So what are the differences you think? I think, does it make it easier for you to just have one platform? Is that all you focus on now? Or
no, I mean we don't work with Swedish singing artists. We work with Swedish artists on a global basis. So we have to work with our aggregators internationally to see, and people like you, we don't work with The Orchard yet, but we are on the way to with your latest acquisition. But yes, we definitely work with the instant grad tracks and all of that as well. But from my day-to-day basis and what I first look at, the first trends and the first graphs that I look at when I get into the office is going to be Spotify, because even if we work globally, we still have 40% physical maybe. Spotify is the fastest growing, biggest important or selling channel we have.
We refer to them as instant grats within the office, even though they are, but we replicate them across Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, Amazon. And so it's not just like, even though it's an iTunes, or used to be an iTunes-led thing, actually now they're effectively individual singles in the lead up to a campaign, just not with very much space between them. So with that We Are 21 campaign, we had 6 instant grats. We did a Beatport exclusive track. All of those went up as individual tracks, effectively, to all intents and purposes, a single on each of those artists' profiles. So across all of those profiles, we had the branding, we had that track going up, we got New Music Friday for a couple of them, and it made all of those fans aware that one central project was coming out.
And that's obviously something really important, I mean, generally we know that streaming is obviously changing the way that we plan our campaigns. And you were mentioning it's always important to kind of react to what's happening when you were mentioning your campaign before. But you were also saying that you'd planned that because you were releasing singles 8-9 months before. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so investing in PR, investing in marketing, and doing the singles early on gives you get the plan to do the peaks and then the release. That's what you have, but you're also opening up to the possibilities that something bigger will happen. That curveball, and for me it was first of all, I've had my first in a while #1 on Hype Machine the day before the album came, and that was for a singer-songwriter duo. Released in 20th of April. Parallel to that, a music supervisor reached out and said, there's no pay here, there's no money here, but we want to do a pro bono, anti-grooming online, save the children kind of thing in Mexico together with a telco company called Movistar. And we said, oh, yeah, could be good, could be some good exposure, but then we saw the video and it's like, yes, this is good. They used the full song, 3:30 minutes, and it's a really good twist in the end. And then 3 weeks later, it's been seen by, I think, 15 million people, and it's been trending. And I couldn't plan that. That just came because I've been to a few places like this and met music supervisors and tried to pitch them my music, and they rarely respond unless they actually like something, so they must be listening. But this guy actually reached out because we've done the PR, we've done all this for months leading up to the album, and he was out, please send me the music. And then this came on top of this.
How important is, what tools do you value when it comes to, like, you know, obviously you need to react somehow. Is it only views or that you look at, or what type of tools do you prefer to kind of drive?
Spotify streams are useful because that updates daily. You can see the monthly listeners. If you see an enormous spike in your monthly listeners, obviously you can look into why that's happened. We draw all our sort of data feeds into one place, so every morning I can log on, I can look at our sales on iTunes, our sales from all platforms, as well as our Spotify streams, our YouTube views, etc. And you're basically just looking for the peaks and troughs. Obviously troughs are bad, but if you see a peak on a Monday morning, it's great. You can then look at what happened over the weekend, what the artist done, what shows they played, and then sort of feed on from there.
Actually, one of the things... I've mentioned this at another panel, but I always get really surprised for how many know of, let's just check, how many people know of Spotify for Artists and have it? Okay, so people that are in any contact with artists should actually have that. It used to be, obviously, that it was restricted, a bit more restricted for labels to access it, but that's a free tool that people can use.
Yeah. I always thought it was crazy that it was restricted for labels. We were having to apply to get access to see that data for our own artists, and a couple of times we got refused. And it was supposedly for managers and artists, wasn't it? And labels didn't have access, which I thought was crazy. They've now rolled that out, and so you can register your artists, and the data on there now they've revamped it, is really useful. You can see your fans, your monthly listeners, where your streams are coming from, what town, what playlist. and basically just see the sort of, hopefully, the rise of your artist over the course of a campaign.
So we've been talking a lot about streaming, which often happens at these panels. Let's talk a little bit more about video, because we were talking about that outside. Of course, this is like a central theme throughout, but I always find it quite interesting because quite often actually people say, oh, we don't have enough assets, we don't have enough photos or videos. What do you think about that? How do you actually get content that you can use for all these social platforms?
I think that at this moment everyone has a smartphone, and there are really quality cameras in the smartphone. So if you have not enough budget to create a video, you can do a little video, homemade covers, even ask for your fans to generate content. The most important is to have a lot of content and with a regularity in the time, because the engagement, you have to maintain the attention to your artist. And a lot of times with short budgets is difficult because you have not enough resources to record, I don't know, 6 or 7 official videos of your album. So you can complete that with user-generated content and homemade content. People like to engage that content because they see the artist, the more human face of the artist, and this is very important, I think.
Yeah, I think the live streaming is quite key at the moment. If you can get your artist, it helps, obviously. If you've got an artist with a lot of personality, then you can create, and they'll create the video content themselves. When it's forced, it's never quite as good. We've, as I was saying before, we've actually moved away from doing narrative, big-budget music videos. I personally just don't see the value in them so much anymore. You can upload them to YouTube, people watch them, but it's not the sort of MTV era where it was very important to break a track. We now focus more on video content rather than actual videos. So we'll do interviews, we'll do Q&As about their production, we'll do tutorials, we'll do tour videos. I encourage our artists to film while they're away, so they're traveling to shows, film themselves, interview each other on the plane, film backstage, get someone to film them while they're playing, and then you can segment that down and post little bits throughout the campaign.
Will you do some kind of content on YouTube with the full track? Will the full track be there?
Yeah, yeah, we'll always post the full track, but rather than spend 10 grand on a video, we'll try and just find a great idea that we can do in-house. We've got 2 video editors full-time now who work, and they're very, very busy. And so we're constantly getting them to edit stuff, and then we'll have it for Instagram, for Twitter, for Facebook, all leading to the YouTube video. And we still post all of our tunes on YouTube, but not necessarily with a full video for each one. There's always animated graphics that ties back into the artwork thing, and that will, again, pull in the artwork from the campaign. But
I think, yeah, I think actually it's because you mentioned, obviously, you've got designers and editors that work on it, but there are plenty of platforms out there that you can use that are for free as well, for someone that's not necessarily, like, massively professional. But obviously we have, I mean, that is the investment that you're doing. But you were mentioning that you do music videos for most of...
Yes. Of course, we try to pay maybe 1,000, 2,000 euros and try to make it look like 3, 5 or more. But we do that, and we build a label channel that you mentioned earlier before we came in here, that sure, some of the artists have their own channel, but we try to get everything on the label channel. Even if we are a bit varied in the kind of music we release, we still see that as the best way to actually grow a channel, is to have, we have different playlists instead, one for metal, one for other more pop-oriented stuff, but it's worked really well for us.
You're actually, all 3 of you have mentioned, yeah, the branding of your own, like, labels. How important is that? How are you finding, because you mentioned that you're doing that with playlist branding, and that whole campaign 21 was based around that. Do you find that that's the way that you have to do, because you were mentioning that the new artist that you get in, it helps to have a label brand?
we use the label channel, like you're just mentioning. We upload all of our, well, most of our music to our label channel. We've built it up over the last the last 10 years or so. and we've got a reasonable amount of subscribers, and that means for new artists that we sign, if we started them their own channel and put the videos up, they'd have no subscribers. We'd be starting from scratch. We upload it to the label channel. We can use the sort of the weight of the larger artists and the label as a whole to sort of to promote those artists. It worked. Sorry.
Yeah, and sorry.
Yeah.
And you're finding the same with?
Yes, I think it's mandatory to develop your voice in digital services of your label. You can have your own playlist to guarantee a presence to your artist, maybe. For example, a few minutes ago we talked about Spotify for artists. There are functions very interesting that is the pitch of the artist. And for example, we ask our artists to pitch the playlist we are building for them, and it's a very good source of subscribers for the playlist. And it's very interesting to get the collaboration of your artist to build your presence. And this is a guarantee of you can do to your artist to be placed there, and it's very important for them and for you.
Yeah, definitely.
On the YouTube thing, we often also work with third-party channels, basically promotional channels, and we'll do it throughout a campaign. But saying that, you get an enormous amount of views, which is great, and it's great for awareness. But I also think people should be very precious about their own content and their own music. Make sure if you're going to work with those channels that you use it to your advantage. You're not just helping build someone else's audience. You should be building your own. We very sort of fiercely protect our music and make sure that the big tracks go on our channel, and then we can pitch out the other ones to other people.
Question, when you do that, more and more bigger YouTube channels are actually working almost like a label now, wanting copyright to what they post on there, or a license in perpetuity of what they post on their YouTube channel. Do you actually accept that for some of your stuff just for the promotional value? I've done it, and I still do it at times, but it depends on the artist and such. I just wanted to check here if the other labels are doing it as well, because there must be people doing it for these channels to grow and do this.
We'd never sign over any form of ownership for it. We'd always keep that. Most of the time we get a revenue share in place, which negotiates go back and forth. Unless it's an enormous channel and we're desperate for the upload, then we'd say no. I'm not happy with giving away our music, someone else earning off it. I know the promotional value is worth it a lot of the time, but it starts a precedent where they'll start doing it with everyone.
I think that's dependent on the label as well, because you have strong label branding, which helps. But I have to chime in and say that with the labels that I work with for awareness for new artists, sometimes it could be worth it. But it is also, I think it's important to know that you are giving away data as well. So that is, regardless of if it's a small audience or a large audience, is it worth getting the smaller audience data, or?
You can also gain data from it as well. If you've got track links on there, if you get 500,000 views in a week and people click through, that's the thing. You need to make sure you're actually getting traffic from that video. If you're uploading it, no one's clicking on it, no one's streaming it, no one's buying it, then what was the point in doing it? But if you've got those track links in there, then you can get the remarketing data and then target those people again when your next single's out. So in effect, you can kind of steal a little bit of their audience.
Definitely. And I'm presuming that everyone here is tracking all of their links, yeah?
Yes, I think that the traffic is mandatory. And I like to build landing pages for my releases because I prefer to have the digital service in 2 clicks distance for the first click. But they have all the options. Spotify user will click on your Spotify button or iTunes or YouTube or whatever. Because I see a lot of times that people is posting directly to iTunes or directly to Spotify or other platform, and I think that people with that practice you are losing the people that don't use that platform. So I prefer to have one place where everyone is able to choose the preference. That link, you are able to track all the traffic, so you can measure in all your strategy. You are using the link. You can measure the success of your campaigns, and this is very important because you have to measure each euro you invest in media. So it's mandatory for me.
I
You
agree
were-
with that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that it's important to give the user choice. People have their own preferences for platforms that they use. There's no reason you should force them to go to iTunes. It used to be far harder when there's now services available, like you were saying, where it takes you to a landing page and you've got the options of wherever you want to go. Before, when you were trying to squeeze all those links into a Facebook post, it was more difficult. There's almost no excuse to force people to a certain platform now when you have that option available.
I do find that sometimes, occasionally, a lot of people in Sweden do that.
Yeah, we do both. Since a few months ago, we do have a Linkfire account as well, and we're still we're a small organization and we have too much to do, so we're still getting to know the ins and outs of it. But I do really like that service and the way how you can also connect it to affiliate programs with Amazon and iTunes, so that every sale, even if they click through and then start browsing something totally different and buy the new Star Wars movie or whatever, you get a bit of affiliation from that. So I see a value in getting everything like that connected. So then it's a really useful tool to actually see how much it gets back. So we're gonna use it more. But if you go to our YouTube videos or Facebook posts, we sometimes do still list like 5-6 services and the links next to it, direct clicks in that way.
So you guys have mentioned budget throughout and obviously you're all kind of labels that might have restricted budgets. What are some of the platforms that you find the most rewarding in exchange to budget?
Can I start?
Yeah.
Look, of course, the obvious is Facebook. So I'm gonna skip that one and focus on. When it comes to pitching, we do have external PR people working for premieres and big blogs and such, but I really find that the Submit Hub as a secondary easy tool to be a really good service where you can, for 30 euros, pitch maybe 30 different blogs or playlisters. They're gonna probably launch radio as well, pitching. And you only pay if they actually listen and give you feedback. And that's a really good tool combined with a PR agent. And then for marketing, I like Feature FM and Wavo.me, I think it's called. Feature FM actually has native advertising places in different medias. Wavo does as well. But Feature FM is good because they have some hard rock and metal genre, so I can go for them to do that. And Wavo is more hype machine, more dance oriented. So if I can't get Gorilla versus Bear, or if I can't get a lot of these big ones, I can at least buy advertising spends on there for music that I think should be targeted on there. And Wavo.me, for smaller budget, you can get your nice artwork, direct link on there. And they also have other services like remix competition and such that I think is interesting because that can drive followers on your Spotify profile and such. It's a very new, hopefully there are more companies like this and there are new trends coming like that. Because for me, it's very important to find ways to build new ways of building followers on these, Spotify, for example, because Spotify itself is moving into an area where it's more algorithms and what people are actually listening to. Of course, it's very important to pitch the editors and get the playlist as well, but both of these are combined, so you can build your own. If you build a following on there, you get, every one of those persons will get a new playlist every Monday, every Friday, based on what they listen to. So, and especially Fridays, that will be based on what they follow.
And is it still important to get placements? Because you mentioned, those tools help you to get placements on blogs and stuff.
I don't see that the importance of the big ones are still driving some traffic, yes. But most important for me to be actually always work this is the storytelling and to get more editorial content for the social media, but also those quotes and those links are used to then pitch to Spotify and other retailers and distributors to make the new artists, the developing artists relevant. Yeah,
so it's almost like it's two sections. You have, the pitching and the quote, bit of stamp of approval, and then you have the storytelling bit, which is the artist and the fans. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yeah, with us, we want the artist to lead the campaign and tell their own story. We're working away behind the scenes to pitch to editors, to get the playlists, to get the editorial content. And then it all feeds into itself, doesn't it? You need to pitch to radio using Spotify streams, to Spotify using radio plays, to press, telling them what the artist is doing. It all feeds into each other, and you should be communicating that between all of those platforms, telling everyone what's happening with radio, with press, with the artist, with touring, and all the information helps.
And how, I'm just going to finish it off before you guys can, ask any questions. Sorry, it's really early. I'm getting a bit. What I was wondering was, how do you see? So, in terms of, obviously, we're all kind of keeping a track of new technologies and what's coming up, and how are you finding keeping up with new technologies and incorporating that in your marketing campaigns?
Our promo team are sort of on top of all the new platforms that are coming up. I think you've got to be wary before jumping onto everything that pops up. It's the same with digital services and stores. There's always something new coming in. Whether you commit to delivering your full catalogue to that, you need to weigh up whether you think it's actually going to go anywhere. That's quite a hard decision to make often, because you don't know whether things are going to take off. Keeping on top of the new, I don't, but our team use Snapchat, we do Instagram stories, we're encouraging our artists all the time to use those platforms, and it all helps to tie in. We still rely quite heavily on Facebook. We use like I was saying before, the advertising, but a lot of our fans can still be reached on Facebook as long as you target them correctly and use the right.
And is that no matter what genre you find, Facebook is like
It's
the
important. I just want to mention one thing. I hope everyone who uses Facebook now has, and if you have more artists that you work with, are using the business tool and not using the normal login of your personal profile. Because if you go into business.facebook.com, you can connect all of your accounts, and you can do marketing campaigns across targeting. I mean, I work with different genres, but I can put all of my metal bands into one target group and then do an advertising towards those fans. And it's going to be a lot cheaper to reach those fans than to take a band that I'm not working with, because that's a higher price tag. Because if they're already following one of those channels and I'm connected to all of these channels, it's easier to market to them. And it's easier to keep track of all your campaigns in the business tool. So that's something that I take for granted that people use, but I don't think everyone uses it when I talk to bands and managers. And
I think there's a lot of people that actually don't use it.
Because they don't advertise it. You need to find that there is a business. For me, it was, I have 2 different labels. This is the big one that I'm here for. But for me, it was, I have 2 different companies. How do I get the invoice and the VAT number? And, there's a business tool. And then you start to go into that. And that was the big eye opener. And that happened just, I think, 2 years ago for me.
And that's also what you guys were mentioning before, when you have a new artist that actually helps you, because you have data on other artists that might be similar, and it's everything that you kind of have together and own. So I'm just going to open it up to questions. So I've got a few. Should we start over there?
Hiya, my name is Thomas. I work at CI. We do music delivery for people like Beggars and Peers. I also have my label. We release some drum and bass, so a question for Romy. When you do marketing campaigns, obviously there's some work that the label does, and maybe something that the artist does. So how much do you coordinate that work between the artist and the label? Do you give them very specific tasks, or do you just say, like, post your stuff to Facebook and Instagram and film it, do whatever you want? So yeah.
As much as possible. We get the artist in pretty much right as soon as they've delivered the album. The artist will come in, we'll have a discussion, we'll sit them down, we'll plan out. We try not to tell them what to post and when to post, but we'll give them suggestions and a sort of a schedule for, say we've got a 9-week campaign leading up to the release. The promo team will set out the type of things that they can post and encourage them to do it at the certain times which work with the algorithm. But we make sure that we're coordinated with that. We'll share their posts or they'll share our posts, or we'll work together on things. I think it needs to be really joined up. And throughout the campaign, we'll have Skypes, sometimes with our key artists once a week, just to make sure that they're on message, they're going to share the things that we ask them to do. It can be very frustrating when an artist doesn't sort of post around their campaign, which can sometimes be hard
Happens.
work. Yeah, we have a lot of producers who they love making music, they love DJing, they don't like talking on camera, they don't like posting on social media. So that can be a challenge. But yeah, as much as possible, you should communicate with your artists and try and do things together.
Thanks for advice. Yeah.
You have to pardon me, I've lost my voice. But I'm Betsy McEwen. I'm the founder of a company called Hurdle. And you've talked a lot about digital marketing online, but I'm curious what the challenges are around reaching your audiences that attend live events. So that's where my company is focused. And we actually did a campaign recently where we were able to capture data on Deadmau5 fans and market against that on Facebook compared to the people that passively like a EDM artist, or actually Deadmau5 in particular on Facebook, and drove almost 400% more conversions because we were able to target those people that actually went to the show. So I'm curious to hear more about what the challenges are around data of the people who attend live events and how to reach those, really, really loyal fans, those tastemakers.
We're quite fortunate in the sense that we have a strong events brand, hospitality. We sell a lot of tickets for worldwide shows. And with every ticket we sell, we get their email address. With their email address, we then can enter it as a marketing list into Facebook. And then most of the time, you can find those people on Facebook. So we use, and also they're geographically located. So we can find out where someone is, the fact that they went to a hospitality show in Prague or wherever it was, and then we can add them to our Facebook group and target them like that.
Is that limited to the ticket purchaser?
What, in terms of the ticket?
The data that you collect at the live
Yeah,
event?
so every time they buy a ticket, we have to have, and also we do it with our guest list as well. But yeah, it is limited to whoever buys the ticket. But we did 150,000 tickets last year, and so that's quite a large group of people that we know are interested in our event, that like the artists who have played at those shows. So they're engaged, they're likely to be a fan, and then we can target those people again.
Right, got it.
Great. So we're going to have to end this session now. I know it's a very broad topic that we've been talking about. We will all be in the Meet the Speakers part. I think it's around the corner there. So you're happy to ask any more specific questions to all of us. And I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you to the lovely panel.